Hey, it's Kevin DeWitt here. Welcome to another plugin knowledge session. In this session, we're going to check out Boz Digital Labs Bark of Dog 2. So in a previous video, I had done a tutorial video on Bark of Dog, which was obviously their first version of the plugin and was done quite a fair way ago. And they since have released an updated version of it, and I figured it was time for me to show that updated version and show you the differences between the two. So Bark of Dog, or Bark of Dog 2, basically is a high-pass resonant filter. So it's used to really enhance your low end by cleaning up the very bottom, tightening it up, and because it has a resonance on that filter, you also can enhance the fundamentals of the bass, or, whether it's a kick drum or a bass guitar or anything like that. And it can give you a really nice deep bass, but clean and not muddy or messy. So it's a pretty simple plugin. The new one has a few more features and looks a little bit more advanced than the original one, which was quite simple, but I'll show you the two of them as well, just so you can see visually what the differences are. And then we'll run through the new features and do a bit of a demonstration of it. So let's get into it and check it out. All right, so here we go. We've got a little session here that I just call my plugin knowledge session. This has got various samples and things like that I can test plugins on and demonstrate them. So you'll see here on the screen, here is the original one called Bark of Dog that I did a video on previously. You can check it out, find it out on YouTube. And very simple layout, nothing much to it. And it just created a really nice warm low end, but without getting muddy and, over the top and messy. Here is the updated version. Obviously, it looks a little bit nicer, a little bit more modern looking, but it's got a few more features. So if we look at the basic controls, we've still got our frequency range here, same as this one. So we've got our boost control here, which relates to our amplitude. We've got an output control, which I think we could adjust, here on the meter, which is sort of trim. So that's obviously to level match our plugin so that we don't get any apparent boost. Now, we had a big mix control here. They must have assumed it wasn't used a great deal, and they've tucked it away up here. So it's a tiny little control now, but it obviously still does the job. We've got a bypass there, and we've got some other settings here. We can go stereo, mid, or side as well. But our main ones that they've changed here is this classic, passive, and combo. So for an explanation between them, I'm going to just refer to the manual here a little bit. What we're going to talk about is classic is basically the same as the Bark of Dog version 1. And it's just a resonant high-pass filter using a resonant high-pass filter. Great way to get rid of all the super low frequencies without thinning out the low end. Then we have a passive mode. Now this mode acts like a classic EQ that lets you boost and attenuate at the same time. It simultaneously applies the boost and the cut, giving that classic low end boost. This mode is like a low shelf that can take extreme amounts of boost without getting muddy. So this one here, I would take a guess, they won't name it, is going to be like doing the Poltech low end trick that I also have a video on my YouTube channel for. And that's where you use that famous trick of boosting and cutting at the same frequency range, or roughly at it. And then we have a combo control, and this one basically combines the passive mode with an additional high-pass filter. Sometimes the passive mode can cause too much low-end buildup when pushed really hard. This mode, the combo mode, helps keep that extra low end under control while still getting that classic boost. So now we are taking the Poltech low EQ trick with a boost and a cut of a shelf style, at a frequency, but also adding a high pass filter on top of that to get rid of any real low end rumble. All right, so the question's going to be, how does it sound? Now, I'm not going to do a comparison between version 1 and version 2 because it's pretty much pointless. You would assume that Boz Digital has replicated it to be pretty much the same in Classic, and you can't get version 1 anymore anyway. Well, maybe you can, but it's not worth it. Why would you bother when you've got this one here? So let's just run through straight on this one as we go. So I've got a kick. It's got a bit of bleed in it, but for our purposes here, it's going to be fine. So that's without the plug-in. Now, if we bring the plug-in straight in, and what we're going to do is boost. So obviously we're boosting a lot there. That's 80 dB. Let's bring it down. Let's go with a 60. So obviously we can get a hell of a lot of boosting out of it. And as I indicated up here, we could just blend a bit in. So we could go over the top and blend some in. Keeping some of the natural with the affected. Or just go the whole lot. And obviously we've got an output control, as I said, to make sure we volume match there. Alright, let's just take it down to something a little bit more respectable. And then what I'll do is we'll just do a quick switch between them, between the modes, and see what they actually sound, how they sound different. So passive and combo do sound very similar, but you can hear it just tightens up a little bit when you go to combo. You can hear a little bit of that extra low end rumble just gets knocked out because of that extra filter that's been put on there. Now, obviously there's a big difference between the passive and classic. Passive is not as boomy. It's a lot tighter. Now, keep in mind, we've got 11 dB boost here, so this is quite extreme. And if we actually bypass between the passive, just to have a listen to that. It's pretty thin, papery sounding. So in classic mode, you might go a little bit more that level. In passive, you could even take it a little bit higher. Just to show an extreme difference between passive and combo, I'll boost it all the way. So it's hard to hear. If you had a sub going, you might notice it more, but I guess the best way to try and listen to it is have a real listen to probably the bit after the kick hits. You'll hear a little bit of a tail trailing off with a bit of low end sort of rumbly sound to it in the passive, and you can hear that sort of disappears or reduces when you go into combo mode. Just sounds tighter to me. Okay, and then with our stereo mid side here, I'm not expecting to hear much difference here because the kick is basically in the middle, so I really doubt it's going to affect anything. But the description is that in stereo mode, it clips the left and right channels independently. In mid side, it clips the mid channel and leaves the sides untouched, and side channel clips the side channel and leaves the mid channel untouched. There's a slight difference, but it shouldn't be much, as I said, because it is a mono track, so we shouldn't hear any difference. Now, as usual, got a few presets, which, you know, they've set pretty similar to what I had. Kick thumper, massive low end. A little bit of a boost for a master bus there, which they're doing on the mid. Old-timey. They're boosting high frequencies. Okay, so they're using it as I showed an example in the other video where if you take the filter up very high, you get a resonance at this frequency and you're basically filtering out below that, especially with the classic. So you get a very thin telephony sound. So let's try the plug-in on a bass guitar. All right, so this is the bass before. Now what we could do is if we look at this EQ here, we could sort of try and target the fundamental of the bass. We're sitting at about, well, there's a peak there, but let's say it's 150 for this example. It's obviously going to move with the notes of the bass, but so you'll hear there, if we go 150, it actually thins it out a lot because it's filtering below the 150. So obviously what I've done there is I've targeted a higher fundamental of the bass, but it's not really the thick end of it. So the thick end of it is about here, which we're saying is about 80 to 85. So let's go at about 80 so we can keep it a fairly bit thick. So if we want to go extreme, we can. All right, so that's classic mode. Let's move over to passive. Definitely a lot of extra low end on it. switch over to combo. It just tightens it up a little bit, combo, but I'm not hearing a massive difference. But I guess it's the best of both worlds. You get the best of the passive sound, but also with a little bit of the filtering that the Classic brings in. But the Classic obviously sounds a lot more boomier than the passive mode does. They both give a really nice bass boost, but they have a different sound to them. They have a different quality. So you could try either of them and see which suits your mix better to what sort of bass increase you want to get out of it. But it's got a really good sound and it's really easy to use. I mean, you could obviously simulate this, and I think I showed an example of this in the first video, so you could check it out. You could simulate this using an EQ in a way, but obviously this is a plugin that can do it quickly for you with a couple of settings, and you don't have to worry about it too much. But you could simulate sort of what it's doing using some EQ settings, especially if you've got an EQ with a resonance setting, or if you're using a Hover Pultec emulator, you could do this setting here and then just add a filter and get similar results. But Boz Digital have obviously decided to make a very simple plugin for you to use with all of that flexibility and power in it without you having to think about how to actually achieve it with various plugins, and just do it within this one. So there you go. There's the Boz Digital Labs Bark of Dog 2. Obviously, it's an improvement on the original Bark of Dog. So if you have that, you might be eligible for a free upgrade. I think I was. So I assume that applies to everybody if you already owned Bark of Dog. If you don't, obviously check out the plugin, try it out yourself. Let me know what you think in the comments and see if it helps you on your mixes getting a nice low end going there. So check it out. Let me know. Ask me any questions in the comments. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and you can check out plenty of other previous videos that I have done, mixing techniques and plugins and tips and tricks, you name it, it's there. So yeah, check it out, subscribe to the channel, and obviously like this video, and ask me any questions and leave comments. So thank you for watching. Hopefully it's been helpful, and I'll catch you in the next one.